Ni Tech na Msangi ya jishinde.com.
Anything that touches on performance catches my ear, and the query object can help in improving performance, especially if we are retrieving from different tables which you'd like to join them differently, and the tables could be having big data sets. So the query object will be in for us. There are two types of queries, query object. In the query type property, you can either have an API or a normal query. And for an API, you can publish them as a web service, and they can be used in Power BI reports and other Microsoft Power Platform applications. And they are processed in form of OData. The data of a query can also be exported to an XML or CSV file using this SaveAsXml or SaveAsCsv, and then you can create, you can write the data to an OutStream. So it supports joining different tables using SqlJoinType property. It also supports filter functions. Aggregate functions also exist, like sum and average. So when accessing the query in AL code, remember you can access it in AL code, you can use the open function. You need to use the open function to access the query, and use the read to retrieve the data in a query. Iterating through the query dataset is done using while do, whereas iterating through a record dataset is done using the repeat until. So you just open it and then iterate using while do. So there is a mapping that is done to a query. We have said that it generates an SQL query in SQL Server. So when you specify such properties, like when you specify the column of a query, you are doing a select. When you specify the data item, you're saying from which table, like select number from this table. The join type, is it inner join? So this is a place you can specify left, outer join, or a cross join. And then on, this is the data item link, where you're linking two related tables using a common key. And where is the data item table filter, having is a column filter, order by, group by, and the top number of rows property. These are properties that you can be able to specify and explore them while creating a query. So let me just create a query for new file. Okay, I just need to use the AL file wizard. What have I done? And then I create a query. This query will be for, let me say, vendors. Do I have data on vendors? Okay, let me just use the vendor table. Vendor, I just want to create a normal query with number as a field and name as a field as well. And let me say just for number email. Simple. One comes first. Telephone, mobile, phone number, then email. We are done with that. Just a simple query. For you to have the field selected, you need to have it in the query. Like if you don't have it in the query, then nobody will select it. So this is the vendor query. It's a normal query. We have said that this is okay. These are the columns. So these are the only columns that will be retrieved from SQL Server. We'd like to do an inner join or a data item link where, okay, an inner join, not a data item link. Let's do an inner join, but we need an secondary data item for detailed vendor ledger entry. this is too big of a name. Just simplify it vendor. Then, so the data item link property is required. Data item link will be the vendor number will be something to do with vendor number equals to the vendor.number. So we need to specify an SqlJoinType. Let me just say we need an inner join. We'll verify this when we run. The resulting dataset contains records from data item tables where a match is found between the fields that are linked by the data item link property to the lower data item. So a link should be found in the vendor table for the vendor number that is contained in the detailed vendor ledger entry. So the detailed vendor ledger entry will only be displayed if we have if the vendor that is found in the vendor table is matching. Okay, it's long since I did SQL, but I believe we get what we mean. So select from vendor. Okay, we'll get the query. We'll get to see the query, and so let's not worry much. Almost forgot how to these inner joins were matching. So we just need to specify our columns, and one is entry number. Then another column will be amount. Amount is another column. The other column will be posting date. Posting date. Entry number, amount, posting date. That's enough. So we just need to now be able to read this particular query, vendor query, event query. We have called it event query. In our 30 days of AL code unit, day 17, I'll initialize a variable of type query, and it will be event query. We get the name of the vendor query in here. So the vendor query, we have said that we read or we access the data using the read. So dot open, we have to open it first and then read. So we open, it runs a query object and generates a dataset that can be read. So the following code shows the syntax. Okay. And then so after opening the query, we can do while event query dot read to begin, then end. You can be able to do your processing here of the query. We definitely need a breakpoint at this point so that we can be able to see the query that will be generated by our particular query with our inner join, so that we can see the property of SqlJoin property. So I'll publish. Okay, we need to access day 17. Open day 17 is here. I believe we should be having our breakpoint. So we are opening the vendor. Let's run our debugger or the variable run and debug so that we can be able to preview our queries, the last executed query statement. So the first step here will be, let's step over. Boom. We haven't done any reading. I expect the last query to have something. Is it having something? No, let's read. So once we have read, where is the query? Here is the query. So we are selecting vendor number as vendor, mobile number, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm looking for my inner join. Okay, as that amount is null, from vendor as vendor with read and commitment. So our inner join is here. Join Cronus detailed vendor ledger entry as detailed vendor ledger entry on the vendor number is equals to vendor.number. Order by number ascending. This is by default, we didn't specify. So the table, the query has created with aliases. So the vendor will be having an alias, is it alias or alias, whichever, an alias for which, what is the alias or alias, alias, whichever, for vendor. Come on, which is it? So there's that alias which will help us during the join. So when you are selecting, you're familiar with this query, I believe you understand. When you're selecting now, you specify the alias name of, if it's vendor, say vendor.name. If it's from the detailed vendor ledger entry, you have like amount vend.amount. But you see, we have just gotten one query, and it's like saying set load fields, because we only have this columns that have been specified in our query that are being loaded. So it's a very good object that will limit even the dataset that we are loading, and it's so specific to the values or the columns that we are loading. The beauty about it is it gives me control of the query that is being generated. And that's it for this video. I hope you can be able to use the query in circumstances that require a query if you haven't been using it. That's it for day 17. I will see you in day 18 of 30 days of AL. See you there.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss the next one.